Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. As you can tell from the title up there, I am continuing to delve into the episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond one at a time. This is going to be episode 6, season 5, The Author. Just a friendly reminder, if you do want to support the channel, you can subscribe to the Patreon down below. You'll gain access to certain videos early, and you will also be able to put in requests for topics for future videos, whether it be on a topic like what about blue-collar workers in cinema, or discussing a film that involves murder, tuna, and tuyuts. Little selfless plug there. If you just want to do a one-off support or a one-off request, the PayPal is also available down there. The Author. The episode about Ray writing a book, or attempting to. This is a Mike Royce pinned episode. It'll be coming up again pretty soon. We've heard his name once or twice before. When we get to tissues, we'll see it again. This episode, Ray finally is going to try to write something outside of the sports world, and that is a book about the Yankees. They never specify what year, but based on his passion for sports, probably from something in his childhood. He's getting ready to type it out, but there's too much noise around the house. Kids running around yelling duty heads. Deborah keep going to and fro. Which begs the question, Ray, if there's so much noise in the kitchen and the living room, too much for you to write, why are you writing up there with a laptop? Don't you have a desktop down in your office, which is in the basement, which is a separate room that you could close and lock the door so nobody can come in, and put up a sign that says, writer at work, do not disturb unless emergency? You could, but he decides not to. Now instead of that, Ray decides flag down Deborah and ask if she could pick up the slack, which the facial expression that Patricia Eaton does for this scene in character, if looks could kill, Ray would have been dead from that. But of course Deborah decides that yeah, she will. But then Ray decides to take it one step further, and not just that day. He wants her to pick up the slack on their upcoming camping trip with the Parkers, which we all know an additional reason why Ray doesn't want to go camping with the Parkers. It's been well established in the show, and it'll be continuing to show in episodes after this, that he hates dealing with that Parker. He just hates it. If he had an arch enemy up until now, that would be it. That's going to eventually be superseded later by Peggy, even though she only appears in, I think, 2-3 episodes, Peggy? But each time she finds herself at odds with Ray, except for one moment later. Now, of course, the other reason, of course, is, as we've seen multiple times and will continue, except for a few exceptions, Ray loves being a parent, loves having the kids, but he just hates doing any of the parental responsibilities. He always likes to pass the buck to Deborah because he just wants to have fun. That's why I call him the man-child in here. Which, of course, is one thing, you know, even as an adult, you're entitled to have some fun, but you got to have your responsibilities come first. And with Ray, it seems his responsibilities always come second because of his work or his tastes. And here it's a bit of both, his work and taste. So he is going to put them aside. And of course, not have spend time with his kids, which of course that lends into another thing, Ray. Why'd you even have kids in the first place if you're not going to spend time with them? Which is going to be a topic that's going to be briefly... sorry about that brief pause. Hopefully it's there. But we'll see it again in a future video, the whole thing about Ray and the whole man-child thing. Here, he does manage to get permission from Deborah to stay and for her to go on the camping trip with the kids by herself. Salute for Deborah. However, he has some rules. All work, no play. But as we all know about that phrase, all work and no play make Homer something something. So, while the cat named Deborah is away, the mouse named Ray decides to play. And while he does get his work done with the book, he decides to go and play golf. Now, one thing I will add on to this part before we get into him being a dead man walking for just a split second. One thing they mention in dialogue is that Ray has postponed and been procrastinating on this project for at least a year, and only now does he decide to get serious and get down to the nitty-gritty with it. Which, pay attention to that. That main point's going to come up in a little bit again. With this watching, I'm starting to think that, even though it's unintentional, that Ray might be a character that has ADHD. Just some of the stuff, the procrastination, not wanting to go too far with responsibility, and even when he's at work playing and all that. Some other aspects with how he's written. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it because I myself have ADHD. But as you've seen from my gripes, there are aspects of Ray's character which I'm like, Piccolo facepalm, like, oh. Which, of course, some of it is I've said. Say it with me. Sitcom writing. Whereas other ones, it's like, really, guys? But then again, it is what it is. This is also from the 90s. And at this point, the early 2000s, which, when we get to Season 6, there's going to be one aspect of that you're going to hear me rant on, but I'll save that for when we get to that episode in Season 6. Now, Ray comes home after Deborah's returned early with the kids, and Frank and Marie are over there, which I just love how this is edited. Ray comes into the kitchen after Deborah has with the kids. You'd think he would have seen them or noticed the car was there, but I guess not. But that adds to the funniness of it. Just the way it cuts back and forth between it. Ray walks in with his golf clubs, sees Deborah, quickly throws it back out, and just the look on Deborah's face. If that earlier look could kill, this would make him obliterate. And just the fact that Deborah even knows that he knows he's screwed, and like, why aren't you protecting yourself? Ray tries to say, well, I finished it, so I'd have some fun going against the deal. And even Marie tries to interstep and be like, he decided so he could have some time to relax, just like you. Marie, he's not relaxing the same way Deborah is. Deborah is out there making memories with the kids and having fun with friends. Ray is shirking his parental responsibilities. Again. And just like Marie always comes to the defense of her son, but that's mothers for you. But this is an instance where in real life a mother would probably like, for the most part, if you've read stories off of Reddit long enough, you know there are mother-in-laws that are just like Marie, if not worse. So I wouldn't doubt there'd be some mother somewhere that would try that. Of course, at this time, Ray luckily gets saved by his publisher, who calls in telling him that, oh, I got the news about it. And sadly, they're not going to go with Ray's book. They never give a reason for it. Of course, Frank and Marie go with the usual ones. Marie, where there's spelling errors. Frank with, that's the Yankees. How can you screw that up? That's the direct quote. But they never say anything about it, and you can tell Ray's all dejected. Now, I think part of the reason he got rejected here is the fact that he procrastinated too long. Because you could think the publisher is probably thinking, have we still not heard anything back from Barone? Yeah, we still haven't. Yeah, give his publisher like, he'll get it. Then eventually they're like, oh, yeah, all right. Oh, we actually got it? Then they read through it and they're like, this is it? This is the work we waited for Barone for over a year to do? This is it? Nah, screw him. And, they might not have genuinely not liked it and just used the year procrastination as another reason why it's not a good idea to go with him. It's one of those things, they leave it very vague, but the whole year thing, that's big red flag right there. Now, in between all this, Robert walks in, and you can tell the moment he walks in, he is chipper. He's super excited to tell them something. He's going to postpone it because of Ray's thing, but you can tell from his body language that part of him still wants to tell them. And they do get it out of him, and it is, Robert has finally made lieutenant. A plot line that has been mentioned off and on since season 1, and after a while actually kind of went into a bit of hibernation, mainly because all of his subplot was taken up by Amy and then the Bull. So it finally came up. After 5 seasons, Robert is finally made lieutenant. Everybody's happy in their own way. Deborah's the most genuinely one. Marie seems to be happy to a point, but you can tell maybe part of her doesn't like that Robert is the policeman because it puts him in danger. Hold on to that because it's going to be important in another episode. Comes into it, so she could tell she's kind of conflicted. And Frank is also happy in his own Frank way. His is more trying to show it because, as we've seen, while Frank does love his family, there are times where he doesn't really express himself the best. Where he's like, yeah, good there, son, that's way up there. But he's happy for Robert because he's happy that his son is a lieutenant. And of course, Ray is the one who, while he is a little happy, he just hates that it comes at his expense, which is part of the dynamic between Ray and Robert throughout parts of the show and then build up here, where Ray always seems to get what he wants. Robert's always the one that goes, well, never ends. Now, finally, when it's reversed for a little bit, Ray can't stand it, which, of course, does come up when Ray and Robert have an argument at the very end of the episode, where it is pointed out that Ray just cannot be happy for his brother, even though Ray's like, you did it in my time. It's like, I hope it feels like how it always makes me feel whenever you prance over there and tell them about your accomplishments. And instead of it being a verbal fight like we've seen between these two before, it actually goes all physical. No punches and kicks. It's more like a weird little wrestling match. And if you want to go into it, Robert does bring in chemical warfare with his stinky feet. And it's really built like a teenage brother fight, the way it goes, even down to Marie coming in and like hitting them with their purse, like, stop it, stop it. The only difference, of course, is them being older plays into the end. Ray's tweaked his neck, Robert's tweaked his back, and then some of the humor with it where Marie's more mad at Robert because he's the older one. Yeah, it's true, you really should set an example. It's a perfect way to end this episode. And may even start questioning why these two, why they have this whole little weird sibling rivalry thing. Which, of course, as I said at the top, not going to fully resolve itself, because as we know, sitcoms, they always got to go back to the status quo unless it's one of those weird times where they're actually taking continuity into account. But that's the whole thing with sitcoms for you. But all in all, it's a pretty fun episode. The epilogue is no nothing, but it ties back into a little bit of moment involving bugles, which, if you do not know what those are, they were a snack food. They were starting to become very popular around this time. I don't know if they still make them, but I remember them being pretty delicious. Tie back into them and their Frank's bugles. Funyuns still exist, I know that. Like all in all, pretty good episode. Another good example of why this period is the height of this show creatively and acting wise. And while it could have been at any place in time, I think this far into the show fits perfectly for this. If Amy and Robert were still a thing, I could just imagine how excited she would have been for him. But alas, she's not going to come back into the picture, at least for Robert, until after he's officially a lieutenant. Which, as he mentions it, he has to wait till someone retires to get promoted, which makes sense. And not going into any specifics from work, I really do feel for how excited he is, because I do get that a lot more now as an adult. Put it on the list of things that you identify more with the show when you watch it as an adult. Now, there is one deleted scene for this episode that takes place before the opening proper. It's where Robert is searching through the trash for his notes that Marie threw out. There were the notes for his lieutenant's test. And Robert brings up a good point of like, why would you throw these away? I was gone for a couple minutes using the bathroom, and it was notes in a folder marked Robert. Why would you throw those away? It's one of those weird little things about Marie that you could kind of tell that she's saying it was an accident and it looked like garbage. But then when you really look at the character, she probably did it intentionally. Just keep that in mind when we get to an episode in Season 6 involving the FBI. Those of you who've seen the show all the way through, you know which one I'm talking about. And what she does in that episode, you put those together, like, yeah. So it's nice that they kind of connect that a little bit. But then tie it in with Raymond, the stuff he needs, his magazines that are about sports up top. And of course, when he drops the fact he's writing the book to the parents, they're like, oh, is it actually going to be in stores? Oh, yeah. You see how there's a little bit of that weird little hesitant parenting, but also like passive aggressiveness and like an actual book in stores that we see the Barones always do. But you can see they're actually happy that he's actually going to write something when it's like him being a sports writer. That should be good enough. But as we've seen with the Barones, nothing's ever good enough for Frank and Marie. And that's about it to talk with this one. Next episode, let me just bring back the menu proper here. It's going to be about something that happened in the past. It's going to be about the concept of regrets, which a lot of us do feel, which as an adult definitely feel this more. There's going to be a line that Robert says in that one that I definitely identify with more. But with Ray, this is one specific regret about a date to a dance. This is going to be about him not walking somebody to the door. Till next time, guys.